Hey all, this is 012 Boku, and
The Winter Jackass.
indeed, I don't want to inquire that much. Wow, well, sorry folks, I know you guys know even if they were closed, you'd probably be getting this glare, but I am sorry about whatever that is there. Wow. So
I didn't think the flashbang would be that strong.
just gonna, okay, that doesn't even help. Well, okay. Sorry about that, guys. But either way, just do your best to ignore that. I apologize. But this is us coming at you with another review, and we're doing the full review now, or at least our thoughts on the recent episode of Legion of Superheroes. Episode, I believe, yeah, I wrote it down here. Six Phantoms, and I will start us off here with what I liked about it. Pretty much quite a lot. It was a fun episode. It was a good episode. It dealt with Quark's past in the Phantom Zone projector. Nice, we got to see that again.
Yep.
And basically, it was action packed as hell, which is one of the biggest things I liked about it. Lots of good action between Drax and the heroes, them dealing with it. Sadly, the city gets dealt a lot of damage. We learned that the Science Police hates the Legion in this one, so go figure. I think I probably even knew that even before I started getting into this cartoon or the comics, because I remember hearing about a lot about the Legion a lot of times, and I know they were never big fans of the Science Police, and the Science Police to them as well. And so that was, and I mean, there's so much action in it, you can't account for it, but because Quark is younger and Jarek brought this up, you really get to see Quark cut loose without even realizing what he can do when he does cut loose. Because,
Yeah.
oh boy, did they destroy, well, not completely, but they definitely destroyed the inside of the Legion Tower. Let's just say, yikes. But, that was great. One other thing I can mention, because they do mention it a lot, and as much as I want to say that the Phantom Zone stuff was cool, which the Legion getting trapped in the Phantom Zone for a little bit was a cool thing, but I have to give it up to Drax, who was either a creation of Zod or a creation of the Phantoms themselves, because Jared pointed out he looked like a cross between Doomsday, Zod, and a few other villain characters, and there were a lot of Phantoms getting around the Legion who were of the Golden Age era that Jared told me about from their looks. And, he was I would even say at times he felt like a sympathetic villain because he was just happy to be free, but yet there were voices, which I'm going to say probably was General Zod, or
Yeah.
someone talking in his head telling him to, you have to get us free, you have to get us, don't forget your mission, or do you want to end up back in here? And it like became this whole thing where he was doing it. Even when he was fighting Quark, Superman Quark wanted to know why are you doing this? You don't have to. And he's like, well, it's simple because I'm evil. I'm going to do what I need to do. And believe it or not, he even fakes Quark out when Quark has a Phantom Zone projector, wants to bring him back. Drax has it go on to his friends instead, so they get sucked in. Drax then destroys it, and also, they get out with a lot of insane ingenuity from Brainiac 5, Lightning Lad, and even Phantom Girl, who, with Lightning boosting their power and Phantom Girl phasing everybody, they escape that way. As soon as the portal opens, Quark, in an ingenious way, we know it's been done in movies and shows before, kicks Drax into it, and Drax goes bye-bye back into the hole. But another side point I'll mention as a third smaller one that I like, because it was a smaller plot point, but it was a sort of a big one that they woven into it, was Brainiac 5, as a precaution, had this orb. Inside this orb, which was the metal canister of kind, was kryptonite. Tried to use it on Drax, and Drax was created so it couldn't affect him, so he didn't have that weakness. But he also spends a bit of that episode mocking Brainiac 5, saying, "Oh, why do you have this boy? Do you think your friend, this Superman knows about it? I wonder what he would think about it." And believe it or not, towards the end of the episode, Drax got it away from Brainiac, was about to use it, but before he could even open it, that's when Quark kicked him in. And the episode ended with a little weird thing where, Brainiac 5 and the Legion are fixing the tower. Brainiac goes, or no, Superman goes, "Hey, Brainy, I lost your orb. I'm sorry we lost it." And he's like, "No, actually, that's fine, Quark. I'm glad to be rid of it, actually." And he's like, "Well, yeah, but it just makes me wonder what value it had." And Brainiac 5's thinking, yeah, let's stop talking about it, because and it left it on such an awkward moment where it's like, he had it for insurance if Quark did anything bad. Other people have done it, including, and I don't mean to say this because me and Joe have been talking about him a lot, and
Yeah.
love how the sun's making my face look like I'm missing part of my face. But other than that, we've been talking about how Batman's done it as insurance against Batman, plus other heroes. Sorry, we know you guys love Batman, but I love him too. But let me just say, we'll probably save this for when we get into the Batman episodes. Insecure child parading around as a 30-year-old, that one. But
Well, I mean, let's be honest. It's kind of weird that we've seen him have all the different forms of kryptonite in his cave, a kryptonite laser. We know he's the one who developed that red kryptonite prison in the Injustice game, so it's like, just how good of a friend are you with Superman? I'm just saying.
well, I'll just say it like this too before I let you take the reins, Dirk. Do you like my quasi-futuristic Batman clothes, Mr. Superman? I designed them myself. Where am I going here? Oh, okay, Alfred, back. This is... Ow! I'm like, sorry, sometimes Batman can remind me of a funny Dr. Evil in that way. And believe me, guys, we won't get into it now, but when we get into some of those discussions, probably we'll even make reviews on discussions on certain episodes too. Whenever we want to get into that, because I know you and me, Jarek, want to talk about doing character depth analysis for one.
Oh yeah.
And that'll definitely be something too. But yeah, sorry guys. I still like Batman, but he used to be my number one. He's now become my number two. And sorry, Zombie and Gray Fox, and yeah, I don't know if Thunder Darkstone would care for it either way. But yeah, Superman's my top fave. So hey, so sorry guys, my bad.
Since you already made the Dr. Evil joke, it looks like your stock is declining, Batman number 2.
Yeah. Well, no. Your stock is declining, Mr. Alfred.
Yeah.
Give a little power. Your stock is declining, Alfred.
And hey, with the way the light's shining like that, it looks like this episode has been brought to you by J.J. Abrams.
Well, yeah, let's not even get into that can of worms. But that's at least what I liked about the episode, is it leaves things on an unsure level and you don't know where it could go. But again, that's why I went through it as quickly as I can, because wasn't so much of the plot points that you could get. There were some good moments, but it was basically just action-packed all the way through, and just it had some great character development. Plus, Drax was a fun villain. So, Jarek, how about you?
Well, I mean, he's no Hugo Drax, but I mean, hey, but yeah, there was a lot to dissect in this one if you're an old school comic book fan, and even a fan of just the cartoons, because if you look at the Phantom Projector before it gets all smashy, you'll notice it's exactly the same design as in the Superman the Animated Series and Justice League Unlimited cartoons.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I took notice too.
Plus, there's other fun little tidbits, like our friend here, like Boca mentioned. I told him it looks like he's got a little bit of Doomsday in him. Which, if you followed the comics in the, mid to late 90s, yeah, they were doing a lot of weird experimentation with the Kryptonians.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, at one time, there was even a huge space colony of surviving Kryptonians basically butting heads with the Earth governments.
Again, that is a very underrated comic, because I think it was my friend, Dr. Superman who got me that comic.
Yeah, and I mean, there was also, before that, Superwoman just showing up and kind of butting heads with Lois Lane over who gets to ride the Super D. But anyways, yeah, this brought up a lot of interesting things that I think are going to pay off down the road, because, back in the past, the Phantom Zone was just, you get stuck there, it's the third closest thing to hell in DC Comics, end of story, you never get out. Unless, of course, it's like a Richard Donner movie or something.
Yeah.
But this one, we now have the implication that they're either genetically modifying people who are already there, or just flat out creating all new hybrid supermen. And one of the most disturbing things about this is if I remember, that chunk of kryptonite got sent into the Phantom Zone with him.
Yes, it did.
Which
he had the orb he was holding.
Yeah, which you wouldn't think would be a bad thing, but you have to remember, the powers and abilities of kryptonite keep shifting over the years. And strangely enough, this particular episode kind of highlights one of the biggest and, frankly, most misunderstood aspects of Superman in general. Why does he keep getting all these new superpowers? Why does his powers keep morphing in strange ways? Well, strangely enough, the death of Superman and the reign of the Superman actually kind of began the process of addressing this. Like, if you'll remember, the clone Superboy, he didn't exactly have, like, Superman's powers, allegedly. But, as we find out, he's a half clone of Lex Luthor. Now, why is this relevant? Because Lex Luthor, he's been studying Superman over the course of his entire life and figured out exactly how Superman's powers worked.
Yep.
And strangely enough, this is actually something he shares in common with Deadpool. His thought process, his mind is what's causing all these fluctuations. Superman himself does not understand much of anything about Kryptonian. Everything he knows is secondhand. So he had to figure things out on his own. And living on Earth, he kind of got influenced by like hero culture and all that other stuff. So he doesn't really understand what a Kryptonian is. On the other hand, you see people like the Eradicator, the basically super deranged Justice AI from Krypton that made a clone body of Superman and kind of did what it was programmed to do: kill evil by any means necessary. Superboy, half Superman, half Lex Luthor. Once he started understanding what the nature of Superman's powers were, he was actually doing some pretty crazy shit back in the day. Like, he had this thing called tactile telekinesis, which was just way more insane than what you see in Marvel most of the time. But yeah, the thing is, Superman, again, he does not understand Kryptonian anything. So his powers are always fluctuating because he just kind of doesn't get it. But don't worry, once he becomes Superman 10 million and becomes an immortal, like, god living in the heart of the sun, he'll get it.
Yeah.
This also
Okay.
brings up other interesting things. Like, for instance, Boku mentioned how the Legion got, tricked into the Phantom Zone and they had to get out. This was actually, like, to me, an even more badass and advanced version of what Kitty Pryde did in the comic books for Days of Future Past, where she used her phasing powers to basically phase Wolverine's mind through time so he could go back and warn the X-Men about what was going to happen in the future. They kind of did a similar thing with her abilities, except this time it was physical because, for those of you who don't know, the Phantom Zone is literally one of the most difficult places to get in or out of. Hence the reason why that Phantom Projector is such a dangerous object.
Mm-hmm.
And why Batman is scared shitless of Superman whenever he finds out about it. And there's a bunch of other, like, nice little homages we see in this. Like, again, Superman just kind of being flabbergasted by the images of what he's going to become down the road. Him not having any clue who Drax is.
Nope.
Finding out that Zod, presumably, is communicating to Drax through his head, even through the distance of the Phantom Zone to the real world. Which, by the way, that shit is crazy. You have to be damn near god tier, one of the greatest scientific minds who ever lived to even attempt that. So we already know this is like not original kneel before Zod in his polyester poofy pants. No, this is late '90s scientific evil genius Zod, and what I really love about this is that Brainiac didn't even know about it because, again, this is the reincarnation of Brainiac 1, but he's only got like pertinent information from from the death of Krypton all the way up to Superman in the modern day to basically like his own creation.
Well, and also if you remember, they said he said, which again probably was true to some of the comics. When Quark was at the museum, Brainiac 5 says that the information we've had after Quark's ascension to Superman all the way up to when he died has been lost from their archives because of a matter war or some sort of war or fight that happened. So they don't have any information too, because you can tell that even though Brainiac 5 is worried about Quark, Quark was watching the museum, Brainiac 5 is watching Quark, probably because they're both trying to find out what all this means for them.
And this also calls back to Brainiac's very origin, because if I remember, Brainiac was a supercomputer made by the combined genius of both Jor-El and Zod.
Mm-hmm.
So he knows about Zod, but because Zod's been in the Phantom Zone for a long time, he doesn't know that Zod has been continuing his weird experiments. Hence the reason why he didn't know that Drax was immune to kryptonite. And by the way, if you think this Drax guy or Superboy Prime are the only Kryptonians immune to kryptonite, you are dead wrong. There's a lot of them. Seriously, like in some iterations, Power Girl, Ultraman from Earth 2. Oh, there's a lot of kryptonite-free Kryptonians out there.
Quite so, quite.
But this also brings up an even weirder point about Superman. Like, how many of you out there know why he's weak to green kryptonite? Like, no, really. This is actually one of the weirdest bits of lore they've introduced in recent years. Get this. Apparently, because of the explosion of Krypton, various chunks of kryptonite are imbued with the deathly memories and remnants of the people of Krypton who died, and Superman is actually hearing their screams, their cries of pain and anger that he's still alive and they had to die. It's literally like the spirits of the dead are howling and they're pissed off with him. This is something Lex Luthor figures out, by the way.
Joy.
So, yeah, we see just a ton of crazy shit in this. If you're a Legion or Superman fan, this is an episode you have to watch.
Well, and there you go. And on that point, Jarek, probably a good point to lead off to where we were. I had two people in mind for this one. I think I mentioned it in the short review. I had to give it to Yuri Lowenthal, Superman Clark Kent. You know, great performance of him. Great with his dialogue, dealing with Drax, not understanding it, wanting to understand it. Especially when he gained a little bit of confidence because when he wasn't beating Drax in a one-on-one fight, when he gets knocked into the basement, he grabs a bunch of Brainiac's weapons and uses them. And just seeing how this is a younger version of Superman and how Yuri Lowenthal is playing it off like he's this young adult teenager person is just it's great. It's excellent in my opinion. Now Greg Ellis, who did the voice of Drax, great villain for this one. A guy who was cocksure, fearful, but just oozed this evil that he talked about. And like I said, I don't know what it was, but in a strange way, I sympathized with him for a little bit. Not completely, but for a little bit. That you know, like he wants to be free and have his own will, but he can't because he's being controlled by Zod or these other phantoms, and he's trying to do their bidding. And at the same time, like he says, even though he knows this and wants to be free, he's like, hey, I was evil. I was developed to be evil, you know, so I love doing this because it's fun. And oh, you know what, I'm going to use stuff against you. There go your friends. Do you know why your Brainiac friend had this orb, Superman? Let's find out, you know, so he also does enjoy being evil. But like I said, little bit of sympathy for him, but you know, Greg Ellis just played it off great. He was a great villain in my opinion, and I actually liked the design of Drax, and his voice worked for the character. And everybody else was good in it too, but it was sort of like mid to low tier. I'll probably just do a quick mention. Heather Hogan, Phantom Girl, Sean Harrison, who did Timberwolf. You can see they sort of like each other, and there's sort of this playoff. That was a little fun and cheeky.
And by the way, I
enjoyed that.
They kind of play with that in the comic adaptation from DC Comics of Legion of Superheroes. So yeah, it's kind of weird how that also kind of like the two things were connected in that way too.
Indeed. Well, Jarek, you're up. Who are your favorites?
Oh, that's easy. Like again, Yuri Lowenthal is the man. He's the Superman. Mm-hmm. He's good at it too, man. I mean,
oh yeah. Well, plus, for younger Clark Kent, he's really good, yeah.
Drax, in this case, kind of reminded me of, like, that skinny Green Goblin from, like, the 2012 Spider-Man cartoon. Yeah, because, I mean, he's kind of got the same look, voice, and attitude, so I was like, hey, it's like, you're going to go harass Spooderman after this? And then for number 3, I have to give it up to Brainiac 5, because he actually had some
Adam Wiley at Brainiac 5.
Because he had some really great moments with both Drax and Superman. And he's actually got some really good range for a guy playing what is essentially a living robot. So, good on you. You're ready for Transformers.
Well, there you go. And basically for me, my final thoughts is that, you know, just a very great episode. You know, it's, like I said, tons of action, great action. Really starts right from the outset. It starts off slow pace for like maybe the first like 3-5 minutes. And then as soon as Drax is released, it just like becomes this cavalcade of just nonstop stuff. I think I told Jared this is probably the most action we've had in any episode so far. where like they were building mystery to the characters, origin stories for others, background stuff between the Furious Five and governments, and
Well,
not that they weren't bad, but this one just really laid on the action quick. Like we want an episode that'll thrill you and pop, and didn't disappoint.
And you know what I really loved about this episode too?
What's that?
At the beginning, the whole Legion is kind of worried that Superman's spending all of his time at the museum. Like maybe it's nostalgia or just like whatever, but it's like everybody's kind of worried that he's spending too much time there. And then by the end of the episode, he's like, you know what, Brainy, I don't think I'll be going to the museum for a while.
Oh yeah,
now.
he did mention that. Yeah, that he's.
And
not
it's
gonna
kind
go
of a neat thing where it shows like his time with the Legion, just like in the comic books, is really helping him to grow, to understand like we know his time on Earth helps him to become the best Clark Kent he can be, but it's his time with the Legion that helps him to learn how to be the best Superman he can be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really one of the more overlooked parts of his past, but I love the fact that this cartoon did it, and this is a nice little episode that emphasizes it.
Yep. And I noticed that in the cartoons, and I will also say in the show Smallville are the best ones that utilize the Legion well. Superman the animated series, Justice League Unlimited, season 2 of Justice League, and again Smallville. They were the only ones, and plus I know me and Jarek, we will get to Smallville and do that whole show episode per episode at some point, but in the later seasons when they do the Legion of Superheroes, what I love is that episode was written by Jeff Johns himself, which I thought was badass. Yeah, I think Jeff Johns wrote at least 3 episodes of Smallville, which to me I thought was badass. They got Jeff Johns to even write any episodes at all, but he's on audio commentary, one of them, and he's like, yeah, I was actually happy, and he's like, you guys have had a great show going here for the last several years. And
I mean, hey,
damn straight.
What Chris Claremont is to me for being the greatest X-Men writer of all time, Jeff Johns is for Green Lantern.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Jeff Johns. I know Jeff Johns is famous, but I think he's really underrated. But hey, that's me.
Yeah.
And, this is us. But what are your guys' thoughts? Do you like this episode? Again, have you checked this out yet? Just let us know in the comments below, and we'll be happy to get back to you guys. All right, until then, 012 Boku.
Kneel before Boku.
And we'll see you guys later. See ya.